There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Ooh, what's up, and welcome into this special edition emergency podcast of the Program Guys podcast. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. Joined with me is Mark Hall, and Seth Littrell has officially been fired from the University of Oklahoma. Mark, what are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts was that it had to happen. I think the ineptitude that we saw just yesterday against South Carolina, obviously 3 drives, 3 turnovers from Michael Hawkins, that can't be the plan. And then even throughout the rest of the day, you just don't see enough offensive firepower, enough production to say, no, we keep this going another week. It was bad, man. In many ways, it was worse than the Texas loss, and a lot of that stems entirely on the offense. So just to get a different person with their hand on the wheel, I think it's something you have to do. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, agree. I hope that can provide a spark. It wasn't good enough. And Seth Littrell knows that. It sucks. He's an Oklahoma guy. I'm sad for him, but the program had to move in this direction. The last few weeks were not good. I feel like we should have made the decision 3 weeks ago, maybe after the Auburn game too, because we were not seeing any sort of progression, right? All we saw is regression and since the season started. And that's why we had to make a decision, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah, the problem is at that point in the season, you're watching the Auburn game, right? And you've now gone to Michael Hawkins, and it's slow. It doesn't really look totally right, but he's a freshman, and we're missing some guys. It's the fact that no matter who's at quarterback, since the Temple game, there's just no coherent game plan. Even week to week, there's no game plan. If I ask you to name the offensive identity of this football team, what is it?
Don't know.
I don't know. Yesterday it was Javonte Barnes, and he looked good. I was fine with the way Javonte looked, but that's simply not enough, man. That is simply not enough. You got to have some sort of identity. You've got to be able to run an offense that is going to maximize your players, and instead we're putting them in positions to fail. And hopefully some kind of other voice, some kind of other direction will fix some of that, because it just hasn't been good enough. And I think you made the important point. This one's weird because no one wants to see Seth Littrell fail.
Yep.
Everyone was on board with this, and I think we probably got a little too much in our feelings about it, just assuming bringing together the Sooner squad in the coaching staff was going to work, and it seems to have failed pretty horrifically on the offensive side of the ball. And the fallout from this is going to be nuts, man. I imagine we'll discuss more this week, but was Seth Littrell hired because Jackson wanted him? Does Jackson even matter anymore because he's already out the door? We don't know. There's a lot to it, man.
A lot to it. We've talked a lot how hiring Seth Littrell was a lazy hire. Now, moving forward, it looks like John Finley, the rumor is he's going to be calling plays. Do you think that is lazy as well? Or do you think
I just don't think it's enough. I just don't think it's enough. The big move was to take John Finley and put him up in the booth so that he can talk with Seth, and maybe they come up with a game plan together. And why did it look worse then? Why there was no progression. There was no getting better on the offensive side of the football. There was no, obviously I was about to say you turn the ball over the way that we did, and you can't really see what the game plan would have been, but we opened the game up, pushing the ball down the field in ways that we haven't done before. And again, it's just like trying to hit things with a blunt hammer. I don't always get it. And I'm not sure that John Finley is enough of an upgrade. He's never called plays before. We don't know what it's going to look like. If it's anything like his tight end room, what is there to inspire confidence, Pat?
That's what I was going to mention. The tight end room is the worst room on our offense, and he is the coach of that room. So promoting him to the OC position when he's in charge of the worst room is just counterintuitive, in my opinion, and it's not the right direction.
I made the point on Twitter earlier. You only hired him, you only gave him the title that he has because he was friends with Jeff Lebby and you were afraid he was going to walk.
Yep.
That is not a grounds to then let him call the plays on a first-time basis. This isn't learn on the job kind of things. This is Oklahoma. We
Yep.
saw how much LaDainian Washington had a hard time just picking up being an interim wide receivers coach throughout the season. Now this guy has to learn how to call plays for the first time he's ever done it. Meanwhile, we've said the name before. Kevin Johns is on staff.
Yeah.
And this, the OU Twitter smoke is that he'll take on a more official quarterback coach role because you can have a title upgrade now that you've lost a guy at that title. All right, why isn't he just calling plays?
Yeah.
Let Joe John get on the field and talk to the offense. Kevin Johns can be the quarterback's coach and the OC in the booth and talk to Jackson Arnold on every single down, like every single time he hits the sideline.
100% agree. Joe John, if he's co-OC, then he is part of the problem and therefore should not have been promoted. And look at our tight end play. Again, we are utilizing our tight ends and they are bad. He is making that decision. I assume he is making that decision. No, let my tight ends block. No, let's run these plays so the tight ends can get open.
Well,
those all sucked.
We saw yesterday, and I'm certain that there is some Joe John Finley influence in this. Bauer Sharp absolutely blows a catch, and they're like, let's go right back to him.
Yeah.
On that little goal line BS, shovel pass thing that we did.
Right.
That's definitely Joe John saying, no, go back to him. I trust him. I trust him.
Right.
What's that going to do for anyone, man?
Yeah. Yeah. Longer term, do you think we look for a new OC in the offseason or even start that now while Joe John?
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I don't know that there's anyone out there now that you go get, but you start tampering your ass off. Yeah. I want calls out to Mike Shanahan at Indiana. I want calls to GJ Kinney at Texas State. I want calls all over the country. You've got to find your Lincoln Riley. It's a similar crossroads. I've made the point before between where Bob Stoops was in 2014 and now with Brent Venables having to hire his third offensive coordinator in 4 seasons. It's not good. And so far we can say he's easily 1 of 2 on the previous 2, but the hiring wasn't inspiring the second time around. So I'm not sure what it looks like, but you have to find a new voice. What do you think? Because maybe it sparkles and then you're like, great, we figured it out. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about how the offense has so many problems in every single room that bringing a guy in to bring his guys in is what we need to do, right? We need to clean house. Not every coach, right? We've talked about this a lot. Not every coach, but we need some fresh faces in that room because I've said this a lot. There's groupthink in that room. They think they're good. They're trash.
Well, and to that point, it's time to have the talks, right? Because anyone who comes in, you're not just like getting them on board with all of the above. Your running backs coach, your tight ends coach, your wide receivers coach, your offensive line coach. So one of these longtime OU guys, 2, 3, all of those guys are going to be out the door. And it can go one of 2 ways, man. You can become, on the offensive side, you can look like Kalen DeBoer has changed everything on the Bama side of things, and it's not good. Or you can be literally Mike Shanahan at Indiana and be running the best offense that team has ever seen to an undefeated record so far. I think that that guy is going to be a prime target for everyone this offseason, and Oklahoma would do wise if Castiglione just called him from a payphone and said, we got the blank check, man. Just come and fix this.
Yeah. And hopefully
you have anyone in mind? Anyone like you can think of? I was talking to, just to give you a moment, I was talking to friend of the pod, Connor, and he was like, if Ryan Day fails this season and gets fired, I want Chip Kelly. That's fun, I guess. That's good. Yeah, I don't mind it, but that's a couple big ifs.
That's a couple big ifs. I think there's a Tulane coordinator who used to coach at Clemson. I saw his name around as well. Coached at Clemson while Zach and Brent were both there.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but in my head, I'm like, why didn't we hire him last year? Or like, why is it? But I think he's doing well now, and so that's part of it. Coach,
Apparently
during
they
time,
didn't overlap.
They didn't
Yeah.
overlap, but still, yeah.
Still has produced a good offense in that Tulane team, and that's not easy because they lost their head coach last season, they lost their quarterback last season, so that's something real I think you can point to as success at a lower level that might be translatable. That's what you need to find.
Yep. It'll be an interesting few months and definitely an interesting offseason. Hopefully we retain some coaches that have earned that right. But at the same time, I'm okay with a guy bringing in an entirely new staff at this point.
Got to see it.
Yep.
You know, got to see it. The one thing we didn't really discuss with the assistant coaches is the relationships they've built through recruiting. And I'm someone who thinks you can't really jeopardize that because you mess something up with Bill Bedenbaugh and Ryan Foje and Michael Fasusi might just be walking out the door, and you can't really risk that kind of talent not being there. We've seen what it looks like without that kind of talent in the room.
Yeah, especially on the offensive line, which we need to spend about at least $2 million in the portal this year.
I don't know portal economics, but that's another blank check situation for me.
Yeah, has to be. Any other thoughts on Seth Littrell being fired?
No, man. Best of luck to Seth Littrell. It just obviously didn't work. That's really all that it is. And best of luck to John Finley. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. John can call better. Maybe give the offense an identity. I doubt it.
A jolt. We'll see.
Yeah, a jolt. All right, that wraps it up. Remember to like and subscribe to the Program Guys podcast, and that'll do it. Mark, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being